Nuno Espirito Santo has officially succeeded Steve Cooper at the City Ground. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, today's video we're centering around the big breaking news that happened yesterday in regards to the second managerial casualty of the season, in which Nottingham Forest finally sacked their now former manager Steve Cooper, and today it has been officially confirmed that Nuno Espirito Santo has been appointed as Steve Cooper's successor and will be taking charge at the City Ground for the foreseeable future. We're going to be talking all about this big breaking news story. We're going to be talking about Steve Cooper, about Nuno Espirito Santo, about Forest, and everything else in between. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things always and very greatly appreciated. And of course, I encourage you guys to get involved in the comment section down below. I'm sure you have a lot of interesting thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it in regards to this news story. That will make for great and interesting reading down below. So do get involved down there. But without further ado, let's get on with this topic. Let's get on with talking about this current development within Nottingham Forest in regards to it being Steve Cooper out and Nuno Espirito Santo in. What do I make of this? Well, first and foremost, I've got to say, on Forest's part, I find it a little bit disrespectful that, of course, we knew that the writing was seemingly on the wall. We heard the rumblings, we heard the rumours, we heard the whispers about how Steve Cooper's job was very much unstable at Forest going forward, and it seems that the last result was a 2-0 defeat against Tottenham was the final nail in the Steve Cooper coffin. But I still find it a little bit disrespectful and a little bit frustrated that Forest would go sort of somewhat behind his back, I guess you could say, that whilst he was their manager, they would talk to someone else. I do find it a little bit disrespectful of a guy who, when he came in, Forest had very little hope of the championship season when he first came in. This is a guy that's done so much for Forest over the past couple of years. Got them back to the Premier League, obviously maintained their Premier League status, and had a lot of issues to deal with during those times to obviously fight those battles, overcome those barriers, and get Forest to where they are today. I find it a little bit disrespectful that they did that, but I guess that does show you the kind of ruthlessness and kind of how cutthroat Premier League management is. But at the same time, I still think they could have gone about it in a better way, in a better way of doing it. Steve Cooper, when he came into the job, came into a Forest side that were rock bottom of the championship, hadn't won their first 7 or 8 games or something, and their season looked like it was going to be very, 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 very long and very dark indeed. Steve Cooper comes in out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, the players are taking to him, he's taking to the players, he's taking to the club, and all of a sudden results are picking up. Fans are getting more excited, and before you know it, people are talking about playoffs for Nottingham Forest. And that's exactly what happened. Cooper secured Forest a playoff spot, and then they went on to Wembley. They went on to the playoff final, and they won that playoff final, and they got secured back into the England's top flight division, back into the Premier League, back to where a club like Nottingham Forest belongs, with their history, their character, and everything else that you associate with Nottingham Forest. They are back where they belong, in England's top flight division, and they have Steve Cooper to thank for that. The issue that Forest had, though, was upon their return to the top flight division, they had to get a whole new squad together. That squad that they were arriving to the Premier League with was full of players that either didn't want to be there, had contracts expiring, or they were loan players that obviously had to go back to their parent clubs. Very few players were there for Forest, that stuck by Forest, or were there on long-term deals. Cooper had to bring together an entire new squad to face the Premier League. Now, it's always going to be difficult for newly promoted sides to stay up in the Premier League as it is. Normally, they are one of the favourites to go down. And you kind of yo-yo between the Premier League and the Championship. And of course, Forest was no exception. But you add that kind of fuel to the fire as well. Many people were saying that it's impossible. They can't get a squad that will gel together that quickly to obviously maintain their Premier League status. But by hook or by crook, they managed to do it. And they have many players to thank for that. They've got Taiwo Awoniyi, who had injury issues that started his Forest career. But when he returned towards the back end of last season, his goals were vital to Nottingham Forest staying up. They have Morgan Gibbs-White, who after a while of trying to find his feet, struck up a decent partnership with Awoniyi. And that's why he and Awoniyi were very, very good. And obviously important towards the back end of last season in terms of Awoniyi getting the goals that obviously maintained Forest's Premier League status. Dean Henderson was a solid acquisition in goal before his injury halfway through the season, and they managed to bring in Keylor Navas in goal, which was an incredible eyebrow-raising signing of shock. No one was expecting that, but again, it just showed you how far Forest had come during their short time and how good Steve Cooper was at the recruitment team or whatever it was in acquiring these players that obviously needed to play first team football. And like I say, by any means necessary, Steve Cooper managed to achieve their staying up in the Premier League for that season. And a large part of that was down to their home form. Their home form was incredible. Their home form for a newly promoted side was pretty solid. The home support was incredible. The travelling away fans were just as incredible, but for whatever reason, their away form couldn't quite match up with their home form. But it didn't really matter because their home form was enough to see them maintain their Premier League status. This season, though, it was about progression. It was about building on the platform that they set themselves last season. And unfortunately, so far, Forest haven't been able to do that. Forest brought in a few new players. They got rid of a couple of the old ones. They brought in a few new oons. And apart from maybe what is the defender's name? Begins with M. Murillo? I honestly don't remember his name. I had it written down and I don't remember his name. I do apologise. I think it's Murillo. It seems to ring a bell. And Anthony Elanga. The new signings haven't quite hit the ground running. Matty Turner, for example, hasn't exactly filled a lot of fans with confidence in his goalkeeping abilities, whether it be with the ball at his feet or whether it be through some saves and decision making. He seems to not be filling many fans with a lot of confidence. The home form has somewhat dwindled. The away form hasn't got much better. And whilst I do believe that Steve Cooper's side would have stayed up with or without him, it obviously has come to a point now where I believe that some fans may believe that maybe he's taken them as far as he can go. And I feel like that those thoughts are shared with the Nottingham Forest board. And I also believe that maybe the Forest board also see that maybe the lack of progression this season is down to maybe the team and the squad needing fresh ideas, new ideas, and maybe a new approach from a different style of manager. Obviously, we'd seen last season that there were a number of times where the media had ran with the story that Steve Cooper was facing the axe at Forest anyway. But whilst everybody else around Forest was taking the gamble and rolling the dice on a new manager saving their season, Forest saw the bigger picture, and rightfully so, and it was actually refreshing to see that they actually stuck by their manager in that instance and got rewarded by, of course, staying up that season. This season, though, it seems to be one time too many, and obviously Cooper finally has now been sacked. As far as the future of Cooper goes, I think he'll be fine. I think that he can easily get a job at a higher-end championship club / bottom-end Premier League club. I think he'll be fine in that aspect. I think he's now got the experience of, obviously, the championship and getting through the playoffs and everything, as well as, obviously, the experience of being in the Premier League and, obviously, maintaining a Premier League status. But I just think that there is maybe a ceiling with Cooper that I think teams that obviously look at short-term gain will have to obviously factor into their decision-making. That whilst the football isn't exactly the most attractive on the eye, there is a high level of work rate there. There is a high level of intensity. There is a very direct approach that obviously can hurt teams. And we saw that a number of times throughout the course of last season in particular. They did give a lot of the bigger teams a run for their money. We saw them beat Liverpool at home. We saw them force City to drop points at home. And they gave other clubs as well that were on the higher end. And obviously they beat Arsenal as well on the higher end of the spectrum of the Premier League. We saw them give them kind of teams a run for their money last season. So there definitely is something with this guy and with the way that he plays. It may not be the most attractive style, like I say. It may not be the most forward-thinking or the most modern style, shall we say. But it is somewhat effective, and it clearly is with the high level of intensity that he likes from his players. And, of course, the extremely direct counter-attacking approach that he tends to take. So I think he'll be fine in terms of getting a new job elsewhere, if that's obviously what he wants to do. And I think that he also leaves Forest in a very good position. I wouldn't say they're in the worst position. I'd say that their squad could do with a bit of improvement here and there. It could do with a bit of an upgrade in certain positions, of course. Strike force, the striker situation. I like Taiwo Awoniyi, but at the moment in time, his injuries seem to be affecting the overall performances. I think he's a perfect fit for that Forest side, and it was a perfect fit under Steve Cooper, of course. But I just think his injuries really hindered him in particular. So I do think that that position could be looked at as seen as room for improvement, as is the defence as well. Like I say, I like the new player that they've brought in, but some of the players that were already there, so many mistakes, so many defensive errors that led to stupid goals being conceded during Steve Cooper's time there. I think that could do with some improvement as well. But overall, like I say, I think Cooper will be fine. I think Forest will be fine, whether they had him or not. But there is definitely room for improvement, as there is with every squad, I guess you could say. But certainly in this instance, for this scenario and this situation, when in regards to talking about Steve Cooper and Nottingham Forest, there definitely does seem to be room for improvement there, and things that could have easily been modified and changed for the betterment and for the improvement of Nottingham Forest. What I will say about Nuno Espirito Santo is I know that I said that maybe a new course of fresh ideas was needed at Forest. I don't necessarily see Nuno's brand of football being entirely different to what Cooper was trying. Same sort of situation. He will obviously go to a back three, a back five, whatever you want to call it, and attempt to obviously use the counter-attacking approach that saw it worked so well at Wolves. Obviously, he is a former Wolves and Tottenham manager, and it worked very well at Wolves during his time there, whether it was by him progressing from the Championship to the Premier League, or even him helping to maintain Wolves' Premier League status for the next 3 seasons beyond that point. He was very good at it. He obviously got the job at Tottenham, and it didn't exactly go according to plan, because obviously it started off well, but then the brand of football wasn't sustainable, the style of football wasn't sustainable, and eventually the hype of Nuno Espirito Santo as Tottenham manager completely died off and jumped off a cliff. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one works. It's not exactly, like I say, a appointment that will get you out of your seat. It's not exactly a major surprise. It's not a shock. It's not a ambitious appointment. I think it is a calm appointment. I think it's a very moderate kind of appointment. I see it being an appointment that for the immediate future will steady the ship somewhat, but maybe longer term it may not be as a fantastic appointment as maybe what Forest may believe it to be. I personally would have gone for like a Graham Potter or something, shown a bit more ambition, gone with a more modern day sort of manager with a more fluid and more attractive style of play on the eye. But maybe that's just my personal preference. Maybe it's not exactly practical. Maybe Nuno is more practical than that. I don't know. Obviously time will tell. But yeah, I don't really see it being too much of a difference between Nuno and Cooper. I don't necessarily see it being an appointment that many Forest fans are going to be too excited about. And I think, honestly, a lot of maybe fans may even see this as a bit of disrespect by Forest, the way that they've kind of gotten rid of Steve Cooper somewhat behind his back, talked to Espirito Santo about taking over whilst Cooper was still part of the job. So it's going to be interesting to see how this appointment truly goes down with the Forest fans. I know that some are not happy about it. Some are sort of on the fence about it, which is obviously to be expected whenever a new managerial appointment happens. But it'll be very interesting to see how this goes. Like I say, I think Forest would have been safe anyway, with or without Steve Cooper. I think Nuno coming in, he brings a wealth of experience, both in terms of being a manager and in terms of knowing the Premier League, obviously through his time at Wolves and Tottenham. So it's a very experienced manager. It's just an appointment, I think, to immediately steady the ship, which I can understand why that is. But, yeah, we're going to have to see how this all unfolds. Like I say, I think it's a little bit disrespectful on Forest's part, but that may be the cutthroat and ruthless nature of being a Premier League manager. I think Steve Cooper will be fine. I think Forest are in a decent position to progress going forward, and for a platform to certainly be laid, and for the platform that is there is a decent one to build something upon. And for Nuno Espirito Santo, he gets back in management. He obviously didn't exactly have a great time at Tottenham and, of course, in Saudi Arabia, but we move. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, I'm from the outside looking in on this. I am obviously from Nottingham, born and bred in Nottingham, but I'm not a Nottingham Forest fan. But I understood how happy Nottingham Forest fans were when they did get promoted, how much it meant to the city, how much it meant to the Nottingham Forest fans, and how incredible it was to be in the city when that, of course, happened. So I do have a bit of a soft spot for Forest in certain ways, but like I say, it'll be interesting to see how this appointment goes. I don't think Forest are in a better position as what many people may feel like they are, but I do feel like this appointment isn't exactly a get out your seat and jump around the room sort of appointment. I do feel like it's conservative. I do feel like it is maybe a bit more practical, but that may only be for the short-term future. But those are just some of the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it at this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of the appointment of Nuno Espirito Santo and the sacking of Steve Cooper at Nottingham Forest? I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, on this particular topic down below in the comment section, because I'm sure they'll make for interesting and great reading, and I can't wait to read them all. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new and want to see more content like this. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. I will see you and speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Speak to you all again very soon.